We made it through the bye week. Sometimes tough, sometimes not, depending on how your team's doing during the year. Illinois is pretty good, so maybe it was a tough weekend for you. But hey, they're back this weekend. Got a tough road trip at Washington. We're going to get to that at the end of the show. We got a lot to talk about from around the country. Georgia, they come back and beat Ole Miss at home, back and forth game. Notre Dame, they outlast USC at home as well. Big win for Notre Dame. They've got a good shot to make the playoff now. We're going to look ahead to this week, and then we're going to make some game picks. Let's get right to it. Ole Miss and Georgia. 43-35, Georgia beats Ole Miss. Ole Miss did not stop Georgia one time. They did not stop them one time. I'm being literal. Not once. Scored on all 8 of their drives in the game did the Dogs, and Gunnar Stockton was outstanding yet again. He was great back there for Georgia, and efficient, got the ball to his guys, and he used his legs a lot. He had 5 touchdowns, 1 on the ground. He's just so efficient through the air. He's been really this way all year. His worst game was against Alabama, and they lost that game. This was the same kind of Georgia team that we saw early on in the year against Tennessee. That game on the road, this game at home, back and forth. The crazy thing about this game is that Georgia won and won by 8, but Ole Miss controlled the game. They had the lead pretty much the entire game. A lot of that had to do with Trinidad Chambliss, their quarterback. He was really good again. When he took over as the quarterback a couple of weeks into the year, we didn't really know what to expect from him. I mean, he's coming from Ferris State. I mean, what can you possibly expect from that guy? But he's been really good, and he was really good again on Saturday. Couple of touchdowns on the ground, used his legs. We knew he could do that. He wasn't as efficient as Gunnar Stockton through the air, but they still obviously moved the ball up and down the field the entire game. They scored a touchdown on their first 5 drives. So there was really no defense being played, certainly in the first half. Now, heading into the fourth quarter, it was 35-26. Ole Miss was leading the game. Georgia outscored them 17-0 in the fourth quarter to win by 8. We talked all year about how Georgia, for this team, it's going to be about can they stop the run and can they run the ball, because they didn't do either of those things very well last year. Well, they did those things very well on Saturday against Ole Miss, and they really have throughout most of the year. This was their best rushing performance by far, and they took away the Ole Miss rushing attack, so it was really all on Trinidad Chambliss' shoulders. 221 yards on the ground for Georgia. That's going to be more than enough, and it was 4.5 yards a pop. That's pretty decent. They ran the ball close to half 100 times. So we've stressed this on this show with Georgia the entire year. Can they run the ball? Can they run the ball? Well, against a really good team, maybe not a really good defense, but a really good team, they did just that. Ole Miss, I think they're going to be fine. They've got a tough game coming up again on Saturday. They're going to be okay. But Georgia, they're just so resilient. That's why I picked them last week, is because they're just never out of a game, and Kirby Smart knows how to beat really good teams and stay in games like this. They can win a lot of different ways. They can win a defensive battle, although we haven't really seen that too much this year, and they can win shootouts. We've seen that now twice. Down 9 in the fourth quarter. This was what Georgia's offense did. They went 75 yards for a touchdown, 67 yards for a touchdown, 66 yards for a field goal. Flip side, I mentioned that Ole Miss scored a touchdown in their first 5 drives. After that, in the fourth quarter, they went 3-and-out punt, and then 5 plays and a turnover on downs. That's the difference in the game. Georgia won the fourth quarter 17-0. Really impressed by Georgia. Really impressed by Ole Miss's offense. A little scared about both of these teams' defenses. Tennessee and Bama, another huge one down in the SEC. Third Saturday in October. This is the game that you're going to get. Bama, 37-20. They take down the balls. I wondered openly last week if Alabama could stop Tennessee's offense at all. At all, because Tennessee coming into this game had the best offense statistically in the country. And boy, did they I don't know if shut them down is the right word, but they had their way. for most of the night with Tennessee's offense. It was 16-7 entering or nearing the end of the first half. Okay, Tennessee's driving. They're going to make it a one-possession game again, 2 or 3 point game, depending on what they do after they score a touchdown. They're right there at the goal line before the end of the half. And Joey Aguilar throws a pick six, 99 yards to Xavier Brown. And Bama goes up 23-7 at halftime. The defense just really didn't give Tennessee much. And when they did, like I mentioned, they turned them over and turned it into 6 for themselves. Tennessee kept it close after that pick six, and in the second half, they got a couple explosive plays through the run game, but Bama really held them at arm's length the entire game, and most of that was thanks to their defense. The pick six doesn't happen, and it's certainly obviously a closer game, and maybe Tennessee has a little more momentum heading into halftime, and they can turn it on its head in the second half. But Ty Simpson, just again, all year we've talked about just how solid he is. Just a solid player in the backfield, and that's not supposed to be a knock for him. He's so steady. He's probably, I think, the most consistent quarterback in the country, and that is worth so much, especially in games against high-level teams like Tennessee. He's efficient, doesn't really turn it over, although he had a fumble on Saturday. Obviously didn't come back to bite them. Is Alabama the best team in the SEC? They probably are. I know that Texas A&M is still undefeated in the conference, but Alabama's beaten Georgia, and they just beat Tennessee, and they've really turned it on. We thought they were dead after week 1, but nope, never Bama, never dead. This was a huge one up in South Bend, Indiana. USC and Notre Dame, Saturday night. You watched it right here on WAND. I know you watched it. Notre Dame 34, USC 24. This was a game that I said last week I thought points. And we got some of that. Some of it was, it was raining. There were a lot of turnovers in this game. It could have been a lot more explosive than it turned out being. But I also said last week that I lean USC in the wide receiver core, and I lean Notre Dame with the running backs. Turns out that was just disrespectful to Notre Dame. It was much more than a lean. Jeremiah Love, 228 yards and six explosive rushes of 15 plus. 228 yards on the ground for a 9.5 yards a carry average. Just outstanding, Jeremiah Love. And that's not even counting Jadarian Price, who added, 87 more of his own as the second back, and he returned a kickoff for a touchdown. Notre Dame backs were just outstanding. They controlled the second half because they could run the ball, and that was even with a hilarious interception from C.J. Carr. I mean, they were down in the red zone, and he ran around in the backfield for about 10 seconds before throwing it straight to a USC defender. It was very funny, and they still won by 10. The USC offense, they played well. I thought Jaden Mayava had a pretty good game. He turned it over a couple of times. But I think he spread the ball around to his guys. Like we said, we leaned wide receiver for USC, and Machi Lemon and Jacoby Lane were both great in this game. USC was still in this game at 27-24. I think it was the end of the third quarter, maybe early fourth quarter, and they got a little cute, and they tried a reverse pass from Machi Lemon, and he fumbled it. And that's when Notre Dame went down and scored another touchdown to go up two scores. That Lemon fumble was really tough. But Notre Dame, it looks like they're going to run the table and get to 10-2. They started 0-2. Looks like they're going to win the rest of their games. The only game maybe on their schedule that's a little tough is Pitt. But outside of that, I think Notre Dame's going to go 10-2, make the playoff. USC's not dead yet. They still do play at Nebraska and at Oregon. I mean, if they beat Oregon, they've got a shot, but not looking great because Oregon's a really good team. Nebraska is sneaky. All right, we did okay last week. With the record-wise, straight up, we've opened up a lead. 15-8, 12-12 versus the spread. We're still trying to break through We're still looking for that undefeated week. We're going to try and do it this week. We've got, 5 opportunities this week to try to open up a little gap from 500 against the spread. Missouri and Vanderbilt. College game day is in Nashville this weekend for a top 15 matchup between Vanderbilt and Missouri. Kickoff's at 2:30. This is a huge one for both teams. Massive game, big implications across the SEC for both teams, and maybe even the playoff. They're both 2-1 in league play. Can Missouri get back to running the ball? That's the question here in this game to me. Can Ahmad Hardy get things going? He's really struggled through 3 games, and it's 3 games, but he's struggled in SEC play. 82 yards a game, you think that's pretty good. 4.3 yards a carry, yeah, that's pretty good. But then you look at his overall stats for the year. He's averaging 40 yards per game less in SEC play than he was in non-conference. And yes, that's a step up in opponents. But still, I told you a couple weeks ago, I thought he might be the best running back in the country. He's not playing like it right now. The problem with trying to get that run game going this week is that Vanderbilt's defense is really good. They didn't give up much to Alabama a couple of weeks ago. They've played really steady really all year. The place that you can get them is through the air, a little bit. You can get them a little bit through the air. So I think Bo Perbula is going to have to do it. He hasn't run as much as we know that he can, and Ahmad Hardy's getting swallowed up a little bit. So I think Bo Perbula is going to have to do it in the air. On the flip side, Missouri's defense is even better than Vanderbilt's. I mean, look at those rankings. All in the top 16 in the country. Missouri's defense is really, really good. So it's all going to be on Diego Pavia's shoulders. It is every week, but even more so this week, playing such a tough defense. Can he do it again? He did it against LSU. He did it against South Carolina. Couldn't quite do it against Alabama on the road. This game's at home. Okay, prediction. Let's do it. I think that this is going to be an ugly and low-scoring game because both defenses are really good. I don't see either offense being that explosive. Probably it's going to be a field goal game. I'm going to take Vanderbilt. I think they're going to cover the 2.5 points. Like I said, ugly field goal game. Probably not a lot of points to be had here in this one. So I'll take Vanderbilt at home. It's a big game for both teams. Wouldn't be surprised if Missouri won by a touchdown. Wouldn't be surprised if Vanderbilt won by a touchdown either. But I think it's going to be low-scoring, field goal, tight game. Give me Vandy. Ole Miss and Oklahoma. Another big one. The question in this game, and really for Oklahoma the rest of the season, is John Mateer healthy? Is he healthy? He hasn't looked healthy the last couple of weeks. He broke his hand a few weeks back, and he only missed 1 game when people thought he was going to be out for a month. He just hasn't looked good the last couple of games. They lost to Texas, Red River shootout. You never know what's going to happen in that game, but he threw a lot of picks in that game. I think it was 2, at least 2, might have been 3. And then last week against South Carolina, he didn't look great. They won that game on the road, but again, he just has not looked good. Now, the Ole Miss defense should be the perfect medicine if he is healthy and is just not playing that well. The Ole Miss defense has been just see the Georgia game on Saturday. Just really bad. And, even though they're a little bit better against the pass than they are against the rush, John Mateer hasn't thrown the ball that well so far this year, certainly since he came back from the injury. And Oklahoma really hasn't run the ball. The OU defense, I think, however, is going to be the one that decides it. Not Ole Miss. Not as bad as their defense has been. I think it's the OU defense that will decide it because it's good on good. This game is good on good. That's what it is. The Ole Miss offense, high-flying, scores a lot of points, can do it really quickly, can also sustain drives for an entire game. And the Oklahoma defense doesn't really give you anything. There's really nowhere that you can point on this Oklahoma defense that you say, oh, there's nothing that we can, or that's somewhere that we can take advantage. I don't see that. I'm sure the Ole Miss coaches will find something that they like matchup-wise against Oklahoma. But if Ole Miss is able to score in this game, I don't think that Oklahoma will be able to keep up. I just don't think that they'll be able to score consistently with Ole Miss if Oklahoma's defense is a little shakier than I believe it to be. Prediction time. I just don't know if John Mateer is healthy, and I don't feel comfortable trusting his hand. They haven't run it well enough if he's not fully healthy and can be a dual threat, throwing and running. I went back and forth on this game. It's a tough spot for Ole Miss, losing on the road against Georgia and then going back on the road against a really good Oklahoma team. With that being said, I'm still going to take Ole Miss. I think this is a game that Ole Miss needs a little bit more than Oklahoma, because Oklahoma has a brutal schedule the rest of the way. So if they lose this game, they have more opportunities to make up for it. Ole Miss, I think they need it, and I think they're just slightly better. Can the defense make a couple of stops, and can the offense get a couple on Oklahoma's defense? I think they will. I think Ole Miss is going to win the game outright and, of course, cover the 4.5 spread. A&M and LSU, huge one-night game in Death Valley, 6:30 kick in Baton Rouge. Texas A&M's third in the country. You guys realize that? They're top 3 in the country. They're still undefeated. Marcel Reed, can you do it against a good defense? LSU has a pretty good defense, and Marcel Reed has been throwing wild and running wild all year so far, but he hasn't done it against a good defense. He did it against Notre Dame. Notre Dame's defense is not good. But the LSU defense, they're not top 10, top 15 group in the country, but they're pretty good. And they're going to stress Marcel Reed probably more than he has been stressed so far this year. You know, add into the fact that it's on the road in Baton Rouge, really raucous environment at night. LSU is great at home at night. I think this is a game where Reed's legs are probably going to have to come into play a little bit more than they have so far this year. I mean, he's only running for about 35 yards a game so far this season, and we know that he can do way more of that. He just hasn't, and a lot of that is probably because of how effective he's been through the air. And they've still been scoring a lot of points doing it that way. But I think this LSU secondary is revamped from a year ago, and they've been playing pretty well so far this year. Vandy didn't get a bunch against them in the passing game last week. So I think Marcel Reed's going to have to take off a little bit more than he has so far this year if they want to win this game. For LSU, man, it's time, Garrett Nussmeier. It's time to show us something. He came into this year, people thought he was going to be the number 1 pick or a top 5 pick, and he just hasn't been very good. They haven't been able to run the ball that well, and that might be part of it, where it's just all on him, and he's getting hit a lot. But if there's a game where you need a Garrett Nussmeier performance, it's this one, for obvious reasons. I mean, Texas A&M's really good. But they really need Garrett Nussmeier to be at his best and find those. They have so much talent at wide receiver. I mean, it's LSU. They always have talent at wide receiver. They need it again this week. Can they do it, though, is the question. 2.5-point spread. A&M is favored on the road. I think this is LSU's spot. There's a lot of questions around Brian Kelly. It's a night game. Their back's against the wall. They lost last weekend. And they come home and they have number 3 in the country. The defense, I think, is going to do just enough. I think LSU is going to win this game. I think they need it. This is a desperate LSU team. Brian Kelly might be coaching for his job. Maybe not this week, but over the course of the year, if they lose this game, they're going to already be at 3 losses. They lost to a bad Clemson team in week 1. Good Vandy team. This would be a 3rd loss already. We're not even out of October yet. It's not even Halloween yet. So I think LSU needs this one, and they're going to play desperate. Sometimes that can be a bad thing, but I think it'll be a good thing. They're at home. I'll take LSU to win, and obviously they'll cover the 2.5 that they're being given. You want to talk Big Ten? Let's talk Big Ten. Not a lot of games going on this week, but these are two teams that Illinois, at least record-wise, is stacked up against. Both these teams are 5-2. Illinois is 5-2. And who thought Northwestern would be 5-2, by the way? I didn't. I mean, they beat a bad Penn State team. That helped. But they've been much better than I thought. They're playing really good football right now. Look at this stat profile. I just want you to take in what these numbers are and what their ranks are. If this isn't the most Northwestern football team that you've ever seen, I don't know what is. I mean, they don't give you a lot on defense. There's not a lot there, only about 300 yards a game. They run the ball. They don't give up a lot of points, and they're not penalized, and they control the time of possession. 33 minutes a game. They're 5th in the country in time of possession. That's how Northwestern can win, is doing all of those things right, the right way, and well, running the ball, controlling the clock, not giving up stupid penalties or taking stupid penalties offensively. So Northwestern is what you think they are. Maybe they're a little bit better at it than you thought that they must be. Emmett Johnson is the guy that I'm zeroed in on here for Nebraska. He's been really good all year. He's the running back. You know, I'm not a huge believer in Dylan Raiola, Nebraska's quarterback. So I'm kind of zeroed in on Emmett Johnson here. He's averaging over 100 a game. He scored a lot of touchdowns. He's been effective with the touches that he gets. So Emmett Johnson, I think, is going to have a really big game. And like we just saw, Northwestern doesn't give you a lot defensively. But Emmett Johnson, if Nebraska's going to win, they had a bad loss last week. So they need him and Dylan Raiola to bounce back. For the prediction, I do think that they will bounce back, Nebraska. I just like teams that lose, maybe to a team that they shouldn't have lost to a week ago, and then they come back home. I like that situation. I think Nebraska's going to win this game. 7.5 point spread. Look, if they're going to give me a hook, I'm going to take it. So I'll take Northwestern to cover. And I think this is going to be a good game. It's two similar teams to me. Nebraska has more talent, but they haven't gotten a ton out of it, at least in my opinion, so far this year. So I just like the spot for Nebraska. They need it. They have much higher aspirations than Northwestern does. That doesn't necessarily mean that that's the reason that Nebraska is going to win or that Nebraska is going to win at all. But I like the spot for Nebraska. The game that everyone's been waiting for. You've been waiting 2 weeks for Illinois football to get back onto the field. After a loss to Ohio State, probably weren't feeling great about that one a couple of Saturdays ago, and then you didn't even get back out onto the field last week. But we're back this week. Saturday at 2:30 in Seattle, the Washington Huskies await. Anybody from this area going to Sailgate? If you are, I want you to send me some pictures because that's a bucket list item for me, going to Sailgate over at Washington Stadium. Look, this is a huge game for both of these teams. Both of them are 5-2. There's a big logjam in the middle of the Big Ten. A lot of teams, similar records there. So the winner of this game is going to, really make their mark and try to inch closer to those top three of Ohio State, Indiana, and Oregon. Brett Bielema talked about on Monday how, based on what Illinois has done this year, they've only lost to number 1 and number 2 in the country. Those are their losses. They have a good win against USC. This is the time of the year when teams, fans, everyone starts thinking about how do we fit in nationally to the college football playoff picture. And Brett Bielema, he talked about it on Monday. Here's what he had to say.
The best thing that we can have happen for us is to Indiana and Ohio State continue to win out and play in the Big Ten championship game. I mean, I'm a big believer in that one. Did have someone made reference, right, that if if the CFPs came out right now with us losing to 1 and 2 and beating USC when they're ranked, and some of the things that we've accomplished and the people that we've played have accomplished, be very realistic to think that we'd be pretty high in that ranking. So it's an exciting time, but I would tell you that our guys know that everything in front of us is about Washington and only Washington. And if we ever get offside of that, we'll never get to where we want to be.
I'm not sure that he's right, but I think he's right that they'd probably be a little bit higher than the 23rd ranking from the AP if the college football playoff rankings came out today. We still have a couple of weeks, so they have a couple of games more to get under their belt before we get the first college football playoff rankings. Let's talk Washington. Damon Williams is the guy, the signal caller for Washington. He's a good young player. He's just really good. He's played really well so far this year. He didn't play great last week against Michigan, but it was on the road, a really good Michigan defense. I've really been impressed with what I've seen out of Damon Williams so far this year. He's another elusive guy. Man, can we just get one pocket passer for Illinois to try to defend? They got Julian Sain a couple of weeks ago, but he's a different animal. Damon Williams, he can run it, he can throw it. He's been efficient, he's been effective through the air. He hasn't turned the ball over very much so far this year. I've been impressed with him. The right side of the offensive line, this is something that you should take note of. It's really banged up. They're on backups or their third stringer at guard and tackle on the right side of the offensive line. So that's something to keep in mind when the Illinois defense is out there. Maybe Gabe Akis can get home a little bit more than he has so far this year. Playmakers, they've got a pretty good group of skill guys as well, and Jed Fish is a really good offensive coach, but they've got a couple of really good skill guys, good running back, good wide receiver. Here they are. Denzel Boston is the wide receiver. Jonah Coleman's the running back. Jonah Coleman, he doesn't get a ton of touches. He just hasn't gotten a ton of rushing carries, at least on a per-game basis, but he's still doing pretty well with the touches that he gets, averaging over 5 a pop, over 80 yards a game. And Denzel Boston is the safety net for the young quarterback, Damon Williams. He's the guy that if there's a big play that they have to throw for, it's probably going to go to Denzel Boston. He can stretch the field. He's pretty fast. He's got really good hands, and he's gotten into the end zone a lot. And you can see he has a touchdown of 48 yards, so he can really stretch the field for those guys. I like the offense for Washington, even though they didn't have a great performance last week. But college football can be really week to week sometimes, and depending on the matchup, certainly with an Illinois defense that certainly hasn't blown me away, there could be some chances for Washington to put up some points. Here's what Barry Lunney and Aaron Henry had to say this week about what they're going up against in Washington.
There's some familiarity, and there's new spins and new wrinkles, new schematic elements to it. Obviously, have a great respect for Ryan and what he's done and what he continues to do from a defensive standpoint. They've got a really good defense that plays a lot of multiple looks, present a lot of challenges. But there's some grassroots familiarity, but all in all, if you just turn the film on, there's definitely a different spin on things from what it was when he was here.
Denzel Boston, in my opinion, is probably one of the best receivers in this conference. I mean, that dude's a big body guy. I know they got 2 freshmen along with him who are really talented players as well. But I think Damon Williams, right, and the running back Jonah, right, like he is. I mean, both of them cats are beyond special. I mean, he can make you miss in a phone booth, right? He runs hard. He runs downhill. He's not going down on arm tackles. Damon just creates so many plays, Like I look at, right, a lot of their explosives, right? And if you can't keep that guy bottled up and he starts running around, I mean, you're talking about a long day.
By the way, Aaron Henry has never seen a team that he didn't think was special before. But I don't know that I would call Washington's offense special, but I do like some of the guys that they have. The question at least offensively for Illinois this week is during the bye week, did they figure out the run game? Did they get that figured out? I hope that they did, but if they didn't, this is not a game where you can try to get right. It's really not. Washington's run defense is really good, and it's where Illinois' offense has struggled the most. It's with the running game, with the offensive line, giving up sacks to Luke Altmaier, or on Luke Altmaier. The offensive line, hopefully they had time to get healthier through this bye week and really figure some things out run game-wise and pass protection-wise. The good thing is that Washington hasn't really pressured the quarterback too much so far this year, so maybe Luke Altmaier will have some time. And I do think that if Illinois is going to win and play well this week, they're going to have to do it through the air. They're going to have to do it with Luke Altmaier. And they've proven that they can win that way, which is a good thing. The tough part is that this one is on the road in a really hostile environment. Washington, they're a good team, and it's a tough place to play. We'll see if they can get some semblance of a running game. I mean, if they get to 100 in this game, that would be great. That would really set them up for success. You just want to try to make it at least feel like you can threaten with the run to try to open something in the passing game. I trust Luke Altmaier. I just really trust him. He's played really well all year. Sans the really good teams that they played number 1 and number 2 in the country. He's been really effective. He's been really good through the air. Games with similar talent, meaning Illinois and Washington, their team is made up of similar talent levels. Illinois tends to play really well. So I don't love the West Coast road trip or that Washington is coming off a loss and coming home. I mentioned earlier I like teams in that spot, but I do think that Illinois is just the better team in this game. I think Illinois is better. Washington, I think, has a case to be ranked and probably should be ranked. I think Illinois is a little low. So I think Illinois is going to win this game. They're dogs. They're on the road. They're 4.5-point dogs. But I'm going to pick Illinois because I trust Luke Altmaier to get it done in a game that I think is going to be pretty tight. And I think Illinois is just a hair better. And the Washington offense doesn't scare me quite enough to think that Illinois' defense won't be able to get any stops. So I'll take Illinois. I'll take them, obviously, to cover. And this is a huge game for Illinois. This is the toughest game left on their schedule by far. And they got some softies at the end of the year. They get to 6-2. They've got a real chance at going 10-2 and being that 4th team in the Big Ten that we talked about on this show. You need to be 4th if you want to have a chance to make the college football playoff in the Big Ten. All right, that's Illinois and Washington. Before we completely wrap up and get out of here, I got one quick thought on this upcoming offseason and the wild coaching carousel that I think we're about to see. There are already seven Power Conference head coaching jobs open, 8 if you include Oregon State. Not anymore to me. The head man at Florida is now available. They fired Billy Napier this weekend, which I think Florida's probably the best job that's going to open this year, but let's go through it a little bit. I think Florida's 1. Penn State, to me, is 2. Arkansas's 3, and then a wide gap before you get to Oklahoma State, Virginia Tech, and UCLA. Now, if Lane Kiffin leaves for Ole Miss for Florida, which I think that the only people that would be surprised by that would be Ole Miss fans, but then another big-time job comes available. Penn State, I think, would then become the top choice, then Ole Miss. Florida State, I think, is going to fire Mike Norvell at the end of the year. Where do the Noles fit into this? What about LSU? Not a lot of laughter going on down in Baton Rouge right now, and we've definitely seen some crazier things. LSU, to me, would be the best job out of any of them, including Florida. I think time is up for Hugh Freeze at Auburn. It's called the coaching carousel for a reason. And what if Lane decides to stay at Ole Miss? Who does Florida go get now? I just think it's going to be a wild December and January. And there's more money than ever in college football, and more schools at least think that they have a better chance to win, even though I disagree with that a little bit. But they're making decisions now that reflect that belief. Illini fans, I don't think you have to worry. Brett Bielema, he's here to stay. That's our show. Enjoy Saturday. It's going to be a fun environment, even if you're not going. I mean, I know it's a long trip, so it's going to be a fun environment to watch on TV over in Washington. Going to be a fun one. We're going to break it all down next Tuesday, too. And then we're going to look ahead to the next week, because Illinois, they got a shot here. They got to take care of business this weekend, though. Enjoy Saturday. We'll see you back here next week.